Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. This is my initial thoughts video for Arunka. As per my current trend is release the video super late that no one would really want to watch it anyway. If you are watching this video, you are doing it because you are either just stumbled upon it or you usually like hearing my opinions on stuff, and if it is the latter, then I appreciate that. If you are new, then thanks for watching and hopefully sitting through the entire video. Regardless, let's talk about her. Let's get into it right away. I have a lot to talk about in terms of Hwayoung's nerf, Hwayoung versus her, yada yada yada. First things first, I did say that I am not a furry when I said I was slightly attracted to her, and then I got the YouTube comments right away saying that, oh, she's not a furry or something like that. Anyways, it reminded me of a stream I had where one of my viewers actually made me look at a what's a furry and what's not a furry chart. I had no idea there was a scale, but either way, just for easeability, for my sake, I'm just gonna call her. I'm gonna categorize her as a furry, but either way, I'm not a furry, but I still find her attractive because she still has athletic body parts, alright? And to me, athletic women are always attractive no matter what, right? Like, I'm okay with thick and stuff, but you'll see that, like, if you're following my videos, you're following my train of thought, you'll see me like leaning onto the, oh, actually that's a pretty good pun, but no pun intended, but leaning on the more lean type of heroes, you know, like top model Luluka's legs and stuff like that. It's like very fit. Anyways, let's not keep talking about the legs. Her legs are fine too. She has, like I said, it's just like, you know, the breasts are not like super big that it seems like it's unfunctional, but it's still like she has like a good waist and all that stuff, so it's like she looks athletic, you know, like fitting the parts. That's what I really like about her. The cat mouth, the weird cheek thingies that she has, like I don't know what they are. I guess they're kind of representing some like kind of tiger stripe thing. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of the ears. The eyes are fine, right? See, I'm looking at her as if she's like a full woman, right? The eyes are fine and stuff like that. The tail, whatever, it could be a Halloween costume. The sword is awesome. I like her sword. I think her sword is like one of the coolest features. It's kind of too bad I don't feel like she uses her sword a lot, especially the S3. Like S1 into the extra attack does, but quickly talk about her stats. Earth Elemental Warrior, she's a Scorpio, so that's the same as Rem. If you're unfamiliar with how they do the hero like showcases, this stat screen is always like taking into account some kind of passive. So in her case, she has a 30% passive on the S2. So you basically take Rem's attack and you have it at 30% of that, and you'll see the 1570 there. But because it's like Rem, the warrior, I think she actually has more attack than the current Hwayoung. When I say the current Hwayoung, I'm talking about the nerfed Hwayoung. So instead of 50% attack, she gets 30% attack. I think that her base attack is higher, so her total attack here on the screen before you put on any gear and its maximal at S2 is higher than Hwayoung. I might be wrong, but Hwayoung currently is at 30%. She's at 30%. I think she's slightly higher. Health is pretty good. Defense is pretty good. Speed is at 102. Slightly on the slower side. So I think the flexibility of like varying builds is... I think she's stuck in a rough ballpark type of build. It's kind of like how we saw Hwayoung before she was nerfed. Like there was like a rough, like specific RTA spec Hwayoung, you know, like about 220, 230 speed, 14,000 to 15,000 HP, and around like, you know, 1.4 or 1.5k defense and a 7k attack. That was like the Hwayoung, like the normal bread and butter Hwayoung for World Arena. I think that to start, people are going to try to match that kind of a stat line, and then we might actually see her like faster for taking out, you know, more like an aggro or cleave comp. And hear me out when I say that I think that is going to be one of her primary roles because of how much she needs the opponent to have a barrier. Okay, so but with that being said, I'll continue to talk about her viability, or what I think her viability is. The imprint concentration is 18% attack, which is again slightly higher than Hwayoung, even though Hwayoung's imprint concentration is exactly the same. If she does have higher attack here on the stat screen, then she is going to scale it slightly higher, but don't expect amazing results. As usual, I think if you can get that first or second imprint, that's pretty good bang for buck as a free-to-play. But if you're pure free-to-play and you want to save for the current banner going on right now, which is the triple threat banner, I think that's more worth it at the moment. And that's my honest assessment, right? So like Hwayoung, at the time of her release, I believe there was a limited right after her. I think it was a return limited actually, not like a brand new limited, but Hwayoung ended up being so good that people who did miss her started realizing, oh crap, I made a big mistake. At least we have a week for sure to see if Arunka is going to be any good, and I think like she'll be okay. So in terms of what I think Arunka, like what I think about her right now is I think she's stronger than Hwayoung, although her specialty lies in the barrier gimmick. But I think overall she's stronger than Hwayoung with some flaws as well. And this is, I don't even know when I could segue into the Hwayoung thing, because Hwayoung's nerf is really bothersome for me. Actually, you know, maybe I go to it right now. Let's talk about Hwayoung's nerf right now before I continue on Arunka. Okay, so Hwayoung's nerf right now is that she can kill tanks easily. They made her so that her modifier can kill one-shot tanks anything above, I think it's 12,000 HP. Somewhere around that, a 12,000 HP difference of your Hwayoung's HP to the target. She'll have 100% defense pen, and then the mod is super big. But if you don't hit 100% defense pen, it makes all the difference. So let's say, for example, Hwayoung does 80% defense pen versus 90% defense pen. It's a huge difference. It's a difference between you can kill your target or you can't. So currently, like I was doing this on stream last night, running Torrent set on Hwayoung is super good value because Torrent set lowers HP percent in terms of like a 10% HP. So like on a Hwayoung, you're missing about like 500 to 600 HP. You're suppressing it. Now a lot of people, because they want to make Hwayoung viable, let's say to kill Senya's, to kill like Archdemon Shadow, they're lowering her health so much that some people are just running either non-upgraded helmets, because the helmet slot gives you like about 2,000, 2,500 flat HP, 2,300 something, about 2,400 actually. So either running that or running a low level helmet, or like I said, completely removing the helmet. Like that's how desperate people are bending backwards to make Hwayoung viable like she was before, but she isn't. With that kind of HP, even if you have 2k defense, you're still getting one shot by like a Ravi S3 or max stack a Ravi S3 or Soulburn S1. And also because of Hwayoung's health being so low, attack being so low because of the passive being reduced, her barrier is also much smaller, right? This is what I was saying before when we were like speculating the nerf. And I feel that even if you got your Hwayoung to nuke out a tank, yeah, she's gonna be a tank buster, but like she has less like outside viability compared to someone like Opsig. Yes, Opsig needs a barrier, but she can also do, wait, sorry, my phone was just buzzing. She can also do AoE attack buff, AoE pushback if they have barrier. So like it feels like Opsig can take advantage of her niche, which is like if they have a barrier, you could punish them really badly, right? With Opsig. But Hwayoung is like if they have a lot of HP, the S1 doesn't do extra to the like high HP heroes. It's just the S3. So Hwayoung is literally just like kill one target and you're kind of sitting there, and you have some survival with the 30% mitigation with the barrier. But like I said, the barrier is smaller. So I feel like, and then like Watcher Shuri is a speed imprint, and then he can one shot with no conditions. His attack mod is lower and he doesn't need an attack buff, but he's a speed imprint, has Sasha Ethanes, good for aggro, good for cleave. Strays, you know, yeah, I don't need to go through all of the details there. Strays got two AoE access, so he has like different ways and he can survive for one turn fully no matter what, unless you get stripped. So like there's a lot of like, I feel like Hwayoung got nerfed to a place where it's like, oh, her specialty is to kill tanks, but then not all of it is to kill tanks, right? Because like it's just the S3. Like, why do you need the 30% crit damage reduction if she is specialized in tank killing? So right now, I will say Arunka looks better than Hwayoung because I feel Arunka's kit is better thought out, whereas Hwayoung's kit has been nerfed to the ground without thinking about the repercussions around. So that's my rant about Hwayoung, and I promise I'll stop there unless there's another comparison. Oh man. Okay, anyways, so Arunka skill 2. Oh, just in case if you're wondering, I did recall her yesterday just for my slates back. I am gonna rebuild her as a tank killer, but I honestly have my doubts that I will prioritize her gear. Let me put it that way. Like I think I'll always have her geared, but I think over time, as I get used to not using Hwayoung, I will just not rely on her. I just feel that there's better options. But that's just my opinion. Skill 2, Arunka, Wild Instinct. Increase attack by 30%. So that's currently where Hwayoung is at right now. When attacking, cannot trigger a critical hit. So the same passive. At the end of the enemy's turn, when the target has a barrier, increase the combat readiness by up to 10%, including the max skill enhancement on the S2. So 10% combat readiness is not terrible, and like you see here, like this passive could be amazing if it's a AoE barrier, right? So like in terms of your opponent consistently have barrier, and heck, even 2-turn barriers, right? So with SCROL, with like, you know, FCC, like you basically see Arunka kind of hopping around the map as long as she's not dead. But that gives her a slight issue. It makes her more of an aggressive player instead of a more passive player. Where I was talking about Hwayoung's aggressiveness came from her killing things, but Hwayoung outside of the S1 had no other way of getting her turn, right? So like in terms of CR boosting. So she is more like kind of passive, but then at the same time, she doesn't have survivability to do that. So I almost feel like Hwayoung currently should have some kind of CR boost mechanic that's passive, but might not be benefit on a barrier. Might be benefit off of, I don't know, like a non-attack skill is used or something like that. Anyways, to kind of lean towards Hwayoung being a tank buster role. Whereas Arunka right now, this barrier thing is kind of cool, right? So like 10% barrier, sorry, 10% CR if they constantly have barriers, but it's after their turn. So that is to say that if Arunka doesn't die first, right? But you know what, like I think Hwayoung might have a difficulty killing Arunka, so we're talking about like a 1-for-1 scenario. You know, she could be good into Hwayoung's barrier, but then Hwayoung might not be able to kill Arunka, so kind of weird in the sense that the earth elemental has advantage over the fire elemental in this case, in terms of Hwayoung versus Arunka. So kind of cool gimmick, but she doesn't have any survival, okay? So this is where I think the old Hwayoung build that I mentioned before, around the 15,000 HP, 1.5k, 1.4k defense, that type of build that was on Hwayoung will now, or should be now, put on Arunka, right? Unless you use Arunka as a nuking hero where they are using barriers. So I can imagine Arunka's role not being the way that Hwayoung used to be, which is a tanky bruiser that can do damage, but potentially if they draft too much barrier, you can double up on Opsig Arunka, or double up on a DJB Opsig or Arunka, or something like that kind of combo, and then play more aggressively. Because based on the damage mods that we have currently data mined, her damage seems to be pretty good, even if her defense pen is 70%, but it's really good. It's like, it's better than Commander Pavel, let me put it that way, or at least comparable to Commander Pavel. Let's put it that way. All right, and it doesn't require crit. So Arunka S3, Thrashing in the Prairie. So this is what we should talk about right now. The damage mods on this, I'll pull it up. Okay, actually, let me read it first. It makes more sense. So after increasing attack of the cast for 2 turns, runs up to the enemy to attack. So one benefit that she has is that she has a self-attack buffer. So you can still imagine this, like putting her into that kind of aggressive comp that I was talking about, where like if you had like a DJB opener and you have like maybe an Athletica somewhere mid pick, but you can have a Arunka there if they're like, you know, they plan on using barriers or something like that. You could take advantage of that because she can self-attack buff. So you don't necessarily need an attack buffer. So that's where Hwayoung needed it, right? So Hwayoung can do amazing damage without attack buff, but when Hwayoung had an attack buff, almost nothing on the field, at least before she got nerfed, nothing on the field would have survived, right? That's what made Hwayoung so scary. But Arunka can self-attack buff. But because she can self-attack buff, her defense pen does not go to 100%, but rather sticks at 70%. And now that's a huge difference in terms of the output damage, right? So in terms of 100% defense pen versus 70% is a big difference. It is, like I said, night and day difference. Whereas Hwayoung's kit currently right now, I think it starts at a 70% defense pen, but then like you get 100 if you match the HP differential. And that is night and day difference. So with people who have experimented with Hwayoung, you relatively know like what kind of damage you do. But in Arunka's case, because her damage mod is actually pretty good. Anyways, I should keep talking. When the enemy is defeated, it inflicts extinction. So this aspect is also nice to have. To me, it's not a huge deal, as in like that's not the selling point to this, but I do think that it is a nice addition to her kit. If you feel that the S3 is slightly lackluster, then the extinction can come in handy. Now, RB hasn't been really played in the meta quite a while, so Maid Chloe kind of coming back right now, and then like Ruel has always been a thing, but I think realistically this extinction skill is most likely to add a slight suppression element to a Ravi comps. I think that's the purpose of this, because we haven't really seen an extinction hero just like being released. Like top model Luluka recently got buffed, but I don't think her buff was all about, okay, let's use it for extinction. Like before, like she was kind of created to extinct. But like I think that top model Luluka's buff tells me that, okay, we keep the extinction as like a bonus, but she's gonna be a more supporter damage dealer now, right? So she self pushes, she team pushes, she team attack buff, she self attack buff, stuff like that. So I think that in Arunka's case, why bring in extinction again is that there's still one prominent reviver right now, which is a Ravi. And now with Hwayoung kind of out of the mix, a lot of people are selecting a Ravi a lot more, which I don't think that should be the necessary like reaction to Hwayoung getting nerfed. I personally didn't think that Hwayoung around made me use a Ravi less. It was like other factors, but I think that this could be a way to kind of just like, you know, we nerfed your Hwayoung, like Small Gaze, like we nerf your Hwayoung, so let's add an element to Arunka, who is very much like Hwayoung, but at least she can kind of deal with a Ravi not being too overpowered. You know what I mean? So I kind of think that was the case here. Outside of that, like I said, it's a nice bonus, but it didn't like really make sense, right? It's nice, but it didn't really make sense to me, at least. Penetrate defense by 70% when the target has a barrier, increases the damage dealt. So this is what I wanted to get to. So I had the damage mods pulled up. The attack rate or the mod on this is 0.9 without the barrier. Okay, without the barrier is 0.9, and the power is out of 1. So that's a 70%. That's pretty low. Okay, so in reference, that would do less damage than someone like a Watcher Shuri. And this is, note that this is kind of like this, she's self-attack buffing, by the way, and it would do almost less than Watcher Shuri without attack buff. But if they do have a barrier, increases the damage mod to plus an additional 120%. So the damage dealt is 120% more damage. So we're looking at about like a 2.1 times mod, which is pretty crazy. Now this gets to like an actually usable nuking level. If you increase attack, and she self-increases attack in the 70% defense pen, this is very nice. So I did the job of just pulling it up on the damage calculator. With her current passive being at 30%, I'm using my own Hwayoung as a reference. My old Hwayoung had a 7.3, almost 7.4k attack. With the same gear on Arunka, with the 30%, because I've seen it on my Hwayoung after she got nerfed, it's around 6.4k attack. So using 6.4k attack as my reference point, self-attack buff into a 1500 defense target without damage reduction, so proof of valor and all that stuff, without damage mitigation, so Aureus, ROL, Escort, Eaton, all that stuff, without it. 1500 defense, they have a barrier. It looks like I'm doing about 20,000 damage on the S3. But they have to have a barrier. So 20,000 damage, also you have to account for that. The 20,000 damage, oh sorry, the 20,000 damage I should say has Uberius Tooth in it, in terms of the Uberius Tooth is being procced in this 20,000. So I definitely think you need it. If you don't have it, you're missing about 3,000 damage. So without Uberius Tooth, we're looking at about 18,000, like 17,000, almost 18,000 damage. You're missing about 3,000 damage without Uberius. But so my theory craft going forward on Arunka is going to be that she's using Uberius Tooth. Okay, so at least maybe your Hwayoung's max level Uberius Tooth is on her. So with all that said, let me repeat: 6.4k attack, self-attack buffed, 1500 defense, no damage reduction, no damage mitigation, no damage sharing, no damage mitigation, and she is doing at 20,000 damage. Like, is that enough, right? So she, like I said, this is with a barrier too. So you're eating through the barrier. With the barrier might have like, let's say 2,000, 3,000 EHP. Then you're not really gonna be doing too much, right? Like what's left over is like 18,000. You're not killing a Bellion, like a well-built Bellion or something like that, even if they have a barrier. You might kill a Senya, because Senya's barrier is quite small. So in their own video, they showcased a couple fights, and yes, she can one-shot Senya. But is that enough? Okay, so I'm asking those questions as in I'm like kind of posing them as a rhetorical question. I might not have the answer to this, but it just feels like Arunka's kid, like I think Arunka honestly really like shines in the S1. So let's talk about that. Okay, but just keep in mind those damage mods. All right. I'm actually gonna do something here. I think that the damage mods for Hwayoung has also been updated post balance. So Hwayoung has a attack mod on of 1.25 on the S3, right? Anyways, so those are kind of just like reference numbers. Man, I'm still thinking about Hwayoung nerf. I'm just like, man, it's in my opinion, it's still over nerfed. I think they need to figure out her role a bit better. This is the S3 animation. Now, I won't be showcasing this here, but I was doing a frame by frame animation skip to find the right frame I wanted to, you know, screenshot for this still, and her boobs have decent jiggle. It does have decent jiggle. Now, don't call me a degen. I wasn't looking for it. It's just that as an artist, I noticed it, and this was the best frame, or at least the highest quality frame I could strip from the YouTube video, from their YouTube video. Everything else had like a bit of artifacting, so I couldn't. But this one's like nice, right? And like I said, like you can see a bit of the belly there. Like she's athletic looking, so I like that, right? And I'm also weak to blondes. I like blondes. I'm adding a lot of Jagan lore for you guys to remember me by. Arunka S1 dagger throw. Okay, so I think the S1 and the extra attack honestly is where she's going to shine. Okay, I'm gonna say that right now. I think the S3 is a nice to have. The barrier gimmick is kind of like eh. But the S1 I think is where it's going to shine. So throws a dagger at the enemy, 50% chance to inflict 2 bleeding effects for 2 turns. Successful attack has 50% chance to activate expose as an extra attack. So successful attack means that she can't miss. Alright, so you have to keep that in mind. She can't miss. Like she has to hit. Okay. When the soul burn, if you look at the bottom before we finish that. Oh, sorry. I should just continue. It's close to finishing. Activate expose as an extra attack. Expose can only be activated on the caster's turn. So in terms of if you want to get it on a counter, you know, don't bother. It's not going to. If you want to get a do attack, it's not going to happen. But the soul burn effect has a 100% chance to activate expose. I think that in this case, the soul burn, unless it's not written properly, you can miss and still activate expose. I believe that's it. So the difference is the top is saying that a successful attack has a 50% chance. So you can't miss, but the bottom has none of that condition. So I do believe that it skips the miss check and you go straight into it. Which is nice because realistically you're allowing Uberius Tooth Tooth's damage to actually proc. And carry the damage through. Which in my opinion is really high value. So here's the thing with her. If you're gonna play her as a bruiser and have her as a, we'll call it like like a true DPS, like a damage over time bruiser, you kind of want her to be bulky, like I said before, and run as much high attack as possible. But you do want her bulky, right? So she's not going to survive as long as Hwayoung because she doesn't have 30% damage reduction in terms of the crit, and she doesn't have a barrier. So even if you could get her to the same bulk, she is dying much quicker than Hwayoung. But her S1, like I said, is going to carry everything. With the same stat line, like I talked about, assuming you S3'd first, so she has an outside attack buffer, at 6.4k attack, the S1 does 6.5k damage. 6.5k damage, that's including the Uberi's Tooth proc. And then if you do expose the extra attack, it does 7.4k. Here's the damage mods for the S1. S1 is an attack rate of 1, power of 1. That's standard S1 damage. And then the extra attack is 1.3 times attack and 1.3 times pow, which is actually really good. That's actually very strong. With the Uberi's Tooth carrying the weight, like I said, if you do at the same stat line, if you do S1 and then into an S2, so ideally you're soul burning it, so you always get it. You're doing 6577 and then 7654, right? So what is that? Is that 15? Is about 15,000 damage, correct? Hold on, I'm just gonna pull up a calculator, just quick. 75. Oh, is it 14,000? So somewhere about 14,000 damage. Now, here's the amazing part. Because most of the damage is actually carried through from Uberi's Tooth. When you actually miss your target, in terms of both hits, you're still doing a lot of damage. S1 without the expose is at 5.6k damage. And then with the S2, the expose, so assuming soul burn does not require you to hit, you always activate expose. So if you're hitting a fire and you can soul burn and you could just, you know, S1, S2, you're doing about 5.6. So let me just calculate that really quick. 5.6, and then the miss on the S2 is 6.4. So you're doing 12,000 damage. Only 2,000 damage difference. And this is where I think that she's going to be really strong. Realistically though, she needs to be decently fast as well. She needs to cycle her turns, but every single turn getting off 12,000 damage, that's minimum. With my stat line, that's minimum. That's amazing. That's insanely amazing, because Hwayoung at this point like does maybe less than 12,000, and even much less if she misses, with her current stat line, with her current, like, you know, all the same elements. But Arunka can do up to 12,000 damage on a miss, and then over 14,000 damage with my stat line if you hit. So that is, in my opinion, that's where she's gonna come in value. Now overall though, this is still the thing. She is pretty powerful in terms of damage. Survival, very low. And so that becomes a question on, like, just keep in mind, if you're thinking about a lifesteal Arunka, by the way, if you're thinking about a lifesteal Arunka, a lot of your damage is coming from the actual Uberi's Tooth, which does not siphon back the lifesteal. It has to be the actual hit. So if you are missing, you're not siphoning back a lot of health. But I guess if anything, like, you just really need to figure out where you want Arunka to be. Like, do you need her to be like surviving? And if surviving, then maybe a lifesteal, but I just don't think it has that much value. Whereas Hwayoung before, if you were on at least counter set, it actually does a lot because she could push herself, right? But for in Arunka's case, none of her outside of the bleed, I guess, none of her S1 does anything in terms of the counter attack. I guess the bleed and the Uberi's Tooth damage. So here's the artifact. So Sword of Autumn Eclipse. So increase the attack of all allies by 5%, increase the hit chance of the caster by up to 20%. That's if max limit broken. So if you have one copy at plus 15, you have 15%. Max limit broken will be at 20%. So I mentioned this before when I was reviewing Roy's banner. I was saying that every single class right now is going through the motions, going through the pattern of getting their own artifact that allows them to have hit chance. Right, we already have one for Thief. We have one now for Mages for Roy. We have one for Rangers in the Misha artifact. We have one, the Missile artifact. we have one here now for warriors. I don't know what else we're missing. We're close to all the damage dealing classes being fully decked out with the hit chance thing. I think that this is the lowish value. Like, I can't think of a meta warrior that would benefit from this artifact in a world arena scenario. I think that if you do get this artifact, if you're pulling for Arunka, then it becomes a useful kind of swappable, hot swappable artifact for maybe like a specialized guild war hit where you need to hit your opponent, or maybe an arena thing, like at the most. Outside of that, I don't think it has too much value. That's just my opinion. So overall, what I think about Arunka, it's honestly, when her kit came out, my first reaction was, wow, so boring, right? It's like, oh, it's Hwayoung all over again, but with like different, slightly different gimmicks. And then Hwayoung was getting nerfed at the time. We didn't know how she would perform, but now we kind of see where Hwayoung kind of fits. And it's not that Hwayoung is not usable, it's just that she's far less usable. And then Arunka, not limited, and we got the triple banner coming, and then people are predicting that there might be a limited hero even coming after the triple banner. Smilegate has done this 3 times already, I believe, in terms of having the triple banner and then like a week or 2 weeks later. So in terms of our timeline right now, after Arunka's banner, there could be a limited hero coming. It is gonna be a tough call. I would say that if you are purely free to play, unless you like have a really solid idea of where you want to use her. Again, we have the data mines, we have the damage mod calculators and stuff like that. For Arunka right now, you could play around with, you know, what kind of damage you can get her based off Rem as her stat line, or you can even attempt to use Hwayoung. Honestly, it's actually more or less the same in terms of the damage, the attack part. I would say that she's not, outside of her being kind of hot, and look at that lobby pose, right? Outside of that, I would say she's not super worth it right now. Like I said, maybe she's in a bruiser meta, maybe she's gonna be in an aggro meta, force that counter draft on if they use too much barrier, right? Like maybe she's that pocket pick. I don't think she's gonna have the Hwayoung kind of first pick thing going for her right now. I can't see that happening. But that's just my thoughts. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Appreciate you guys watching this. I'm gonna end this for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.